What's up, everybody? In this video, we will talk about some of my pet peeves in the fitness world, meaning training systems that are simply wrong, fraudulent, or dangerous, and they keep being brought up. So you see, the fitness world is very much like the fashion world. Everything comes back, right? Puffy coats and so on and so forth. I'm not really a fashion expert, as you can tell, but you get the point. So, in no particular order, here are the things that are just completely worthless and should be avoided. The X3 bar. How does this guy have millions of followers? He has a fake PhD and his system is fundamentally flawed because the selling point is training with the X3 bar, which is basically a bunch of bands in an aluminium tube. It's so much harder because the muscle is strongest in the contracted position, and if you have a band, that's where the most resistance is. There's just one tiny issue with all this. The muscle is actually the weakest in a contracted position. So, where do you get your PhD? For most, is like in The Simpsons? Most likely. The muscle, most growth, and there's plenty of studies out, show that it's in the stretch position, so from here to here. Whereas if I'm doing a pec fly here, is where I'm the weakest. Now, I think this guy, John Jake, or whatever his name is confusing lockout with contraction. Because sure, I can go on the bench and put on 400 pounds and I probably can hold in a lockout for quite a while. But guess what? My bones are doing the work and my joints. So that's not creating hypertrophy. Hypertrophy happens in a stretch position. And no, you cannot do it in 10 minutes a day. Now, don't get me wrong, bands aren't bad. Like when you travel or so, it's okay, they hold you over. During the pandemic, they were great. But as a tool, they're simply imperfect because there's no resistance in the stretch phase, which means you are missing out on a good chunk of gains. When will the Maik Mensa cult die? Christ! Okay, he got a perfect score in 1978. I was just born. Yes, that's how old I am. But guess what? He built that physique with volume training, not with high intensity training. And then he made up this bullshit concoction together with Arthur Jones and sold it. One set is enough. No, it's not. There is heaps of studies showing that multiple sets, up to 40 per muscle per week, are way superior. So honestly, I think high intensity training is for people who don't want to train. They're just too lazy to actually have a proper program, and they just do one set twice a week or something. It does not work. Remember, all the great bodybuilders that use that, me neither. It simply doesn't work. I don't understand why it's still around, but it keeps getting regurgitated and regurgitated. Intermittent fasting, that's sort of like semi-cultish. So, first of all, the idea that your growth hormone spikes because you're fasting is completely nonsensical. Because the spikes are so minuscule. Always ask yourself, why would anybody spend 3-4 G's a month, go to Mexico or get some debatable stuff in terms of growth hormone, when they could just not eat for a couple hours? And also, who makes up those windows? Like 6 hours if you're 20 years old, 8 hours if you're 40, this is at Eastern time or whatever. So if intermittent fasting, the downside is the following. You can't spread the protein during the day. That's a huge problem. And also, depending on your caloric intake, you cannot manage in that short of time period. Now, the downside is that people think, oh, as long as I eat in this magic window, I can eat whatever I want and it's not gonna store as fat. Yeah, it will, trust me, because your body doesn't know about intermittent fasting, right? So only because you decided to eat in this particular window doesn't mean the laws of thermodynamics have stopped to apply to you. That's total nonsense, right? So once again, it's tough to spread the protein during the day, and then there's this misconception that you only get fat outside the window. So the body's leptin, ghrelin, they take these 6 hours off, and then they switch back on. Well, that's interesting now, isn't it? Total hocus pocus. And then there's high intensity cardio, which always gets pushed by some debatable fitness influencers as the magic bullet because it burns so much more fat. Okay. They always refer to the epoch afterburn in terms of layman's terms. And apparently there's like hundreds of calories of a difference. No. Epoch has been categorized and measured wrongly. For the last 15 years, we know that the difference is actually minuscule. Think 16 calories for a low intensity workout versus high intensity sprints. So that being said, low intensity has a much higher adherence rate, because if I tell somebody who's new, all right, for cardio, just make your way over there to Central Park and then walk twice around the reservoir, odds are he might do that. Whereas if I tell him, go on a treadmill and sprint, no, I'm not doing it, right? So those are 4 things: the X rebar, high intensity training, sprints, intermittent fasting, that you will often find by scam artists trying to sell like some stupid supplement or workout program. Do not fall for that. They have been proven wrong over and over and over again. Let me know if you agree in the comments. Maik out.